Today we are diving into a really fascinating open source toolkit from GitHub that honestly could completely change how we build software. It's called SpecKit. But let's just start with a question. Imagine this for a second. What if writing a really detailed document, a specification, could automatically just generate your entire application? I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, but that's the core promise of what we're looking at today. So let's dig in and see how this actually works. Because we're not just talking about some new tool here, we're talking about a potential new reality for how software gets made. You know, for as long as we've been writing software, we've had this one huge, frustrating problem. This gap between the idea and the actual code. You write up a spec, and then the moment the coding starts, it's already out of date. It just leads to all this confusion and drift. And this is a really profound shift. See, in traditional development, the code itself becomes the only real source of truth. That initial spec, it's often just a suggestion, right? A starting vibe that gets old, fast. But with spec-driven development, the spec isn't disposable anymore. It's executable. The source of truth literally shifts from the code back to the specification. And that brings us to the official term for this, spec-driven development, or SDD. It's a methodology where that detailed spec isn't just a guide. It's the main thing, the primary artifact that directly generates and steers the creation of the software itself.
Okay, so that's the theory. Sounds pretty cool, right? But how does this actually work in practice? How do you go from just an idea to a running application?
Well, the workflow really boils down to the super clean four-phase process. You start by specifying what you want, then an AI plans the whole technical architecture, it breaks all that down into actionable tasks, and then finally, AI agents handle the implementation, by writing the actual code. Let's break that down a little more.
So that first phase, you kick it off with a splash specify command, and it is all about clarity. You're not thinking about code or databases here. You're just telling the AI what you want to build, and just as important, why it matters. And the AI translates that into formal user stories and requirements.
Next up, with the plan command, the AI takes those user stories and starts figuring out the how. It generates this incredibly detailed technical blueprint, suggesting tech stacks and making architectural choices all based on the needs that you just laid out. Okay, but wait a second. As the AI is generating all this stuff and getting ready to write code, how do you make sure it's any good? How do you stop it from just creating a tangled mess? Well, that's where the most brilliant part of this whole system comes in, a set of unbreakable rules. At the very core of every single SpecKit project is a simple text file, constitution.md. You got to think of it as the unchangeable laws that the AI developer must follow. This is the secret sauce for making sure you get quality and consistency. The first rule is just brilliant in how simple it is. Article I forces what's called a library-first approach. This means every single feature has to be built to be modular, testable, and reusable right from the get-go. It just prevents those messy, monolithic code bases from ever forming.
But this is the real game changer. Article 3 is the test-first imperative. The AI is literally forbidden from writing a single line of implementation code until it has written a bunch of tests for it, and then proven that those tests fail first. This hardwires quality directly into the process from the very start.
And finally, to stop the AI from getting a little too clever for its own good, other articles enforce simplicity. They act like guardrails, forcing the AI to fight against unnecessary complexity and avoid that classic trap of over-engineering things.
So you've got this clear process and this strong constitution guiding the AI. Why does putting those two things together totally change how software gets built?
Well, the payoff is huge. First, you get incredibly rapid iteration. Requirements change? No problem. You just update the spec and the code regenerates. That spec becomes a living document, a single source of truth for everyone. Engineers, product managers, you name it. And it's all built on a foundation of enforced quality, with all the knowledge, the why, baked right in.
And what's really cool is that SpecKit isn't locked into just one AI. It's built to be this flexible toolkit that works with all the heavy hitters. So you can pick the right agent for the job, whether that's Copilot for your day-to-day tasks, Claude for really deep reasoning, or Gemini for complex analysis.
Now, check this out, because this is where it gets really powerful. Since the spec is totally separate from the code, you can ask the AI to build the exact same feature using two different tech stacks at the same time. It turns your technology choices into experiments you can run in parallel, not these massive, irreversible decisions.
Now, let's be real, it's not a silver bullet for everything. For super visual, UI-heavy work, or for just a tiny one-line bug fix, the overhead of writing a full spec might be a little much. It's all about using this powerful approach for the right kind of problems, like building brand new features or doing major redesigns.
Okay, so let's pull all this together and take a look at what this really means for the future.
This right here is the key takeaway. SpecKit isn't about replacing developers. Not at all. It's about amplifying them. It automates all that tedious work of translating an idea into code, and that frees up developers to focus on architecture, on creativity, and on solving the truly hard problems.
And that leaves us with this one final, kind of provocative question for the future. As tools like this get better and better, what becomes the most valuable skill for an engineer? Is it the ability to write flawless code, or is it the ability to articulate flawless intent? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.